All right, so I want to begin by asking, what does reading mean? And I know that's kind of a silly sounding question, but it really does form the way we go into reading something. So there are many different kinds of reading, right? We don't read a bus ticket in the same way that we read, say, a Shakespeare play, and we don't read a lunch menu in the same way that we read a note or text message from a friend or an email from a professor. So context gives us a lot of information as we approach text. Okay, so what is reading for academic purposes? What's important to understand about reading for academic purposes is that it's a dynamic process. It involves continued interaction with the text and not just passively sitting back and receiving what's written. So you think of each text initially as a sort of object in the world outside of us, and we need to internalize that text, make it our own, and make it part of the lens through which we see the world. So you want to understand why you're reading. What is the purpose in reading the text? And are you trying to evaluate its argument, its structure, its representation of a specific topic, such as gender, race, class, right? And the lenses that we're going to be studying inform our purpose in reading. So you definitely want to annotate and to journal as you read. In order to really engage with the text, as we talked about, you want to make it yours by underlining or highlighting and making notes in the margins. And you're going to, in that way, kind of create a dialogue, a personal dialogue with your text. The triple entry journal is also a step that you can take after annotation. And some of you are going to find the triple entry journal really helpful. Others of you maybe less so. And you're going to, develop your own process as we go along. But I do want you to play around with the triple entry journal. Ask questions about what you don't understand, and look up words you don't know, and that's really important too. No way to dialogue with a text if you don't know the words. You want to reread and discuss the text, so you're going to reread the text at least 3 times, and you should discuss the text with others either in person or online. All right, this is a little small, and I'll give you a link to this poem so that you can read it yourselves, but it's W.B. Yeats's When You Are Old. When you are old and gray and full of sleep, and nodding by the fire, take down this book and slowly read, and dream of the soft look your eyes had once and of their shadows deep. How many loved your moments of glad grace, and loved your beauty with love false or true, but one man loved the pilgrim's soul in you, and loved the sorrows of your changing face. And bending down beside the glowing bars, murmur a little sadly how love fled, and paced upon the mountains overhead, and hid his face amid a crowd of stars. Okay, so there's some preliminary questions we want to ask here. For instance, what does this book refer to in line 2? Is it the book of life? Is it experience? What is meant by glad grace in line 5? Elegance, happiness, success, and here. These are questions you could explore in your triple entry journal, right? By having those lines there and then interpreting them and then giving your opinion of what they're signifying. In stanza 2, what is the difference between beauty, loved by the many, and the pilgrim's soul, loved by one man? Is the former superficial and external, while the latter indicates an inner spiritual journey? Maybe. Again, these are just questions that you're sort of throwing out there and can create good dialogue for yourself and also if you're dialoguing with someone else. What is the significance of love hiding his face amid a crowd of stars? Is it the love hides from waking reality and drowns himself in sleep? Again, it's the questioning aspect that does, I think, really helps you to find an entry place into the text. So you're moving from the preliminary to the critical reading. And critical, what does that imply? It's making some sort of a judgment or assessment. So it's a way of analyzing now the text. So you're not just reading it. Now you're jumping into an analysis. And analyzing means breaking it down into its various components, right? So with a formalist reading, the theme might be something you want to begin by identifying. What is the difference between theme and subject matter? Well, subject is what the poem is about, right? It's a lover's plea to his beloved. The theme is a central idea. So that could be the loss of love and struggle to communicate that loss. That is one of the themes in this. theme, form, and context. So theme, what is the central idea? That's the question you're asking when you're trying to find out what the theme is. Form, how does the text express this theme or themes? And context, who is speaking or narrating the text? And that's going to give you some context for that text. Starting point. So for you as a reader, a good starting point is to find a point of entry, as I talked about before, into the text. What strikes you as most important and valuable about the work? Write these things down in your notebook, okay? Take notes. Even if perhaps what's striking you may lead you to a different lens, and as we cover lenses, you're going to sort of, identify more or less with certain ones of them. But just begin by kind of fiddling around with, what is important, what strikes you here. So if you look on page 42 in our text, you'll find a list of questions that a formalist would ask about a work. I'm going to ask a couple here for myself. What is the basic theme or central idea or argument in this poem? How is that theme developed logically, emotionally, through point of view? What is the genre? What genre is the text? And what literary devices are being used? Meter, rhyme, symbolism, metaphor, personification, irony, plot, characterization. Because remember, formalists are really interested in the form, right? They're interested in the text itself, not the biography of the author, not how you necessarily are feeling or what the reader's reaction is to the text. It's interested in the text itself. So it's looking at those literary devices, it's looking at the form, it's looking at theme, and developing an argument from a very close reading of the text. So, point of entry. My point of entry into the poem is the evocation of loss and sadness of being able to value something only when it's too late. And I'm seeing here that I have to value with two O's. Incorrect. I will focus on the theme of loss and how it is conveyed. And here's my question. How does Yeats develop the theme of loss in his poem When You Are Old? Okay, so that's going to be sort of the question that's going to help me as I take notes, do my triple entry journal, and move into writing about this poem. So here are my notes on theme. So I see it as being the loss of love and the struggle to communicate with that loss. How we don't recognize genuine love until it's too late. And to develop the theme, how is the poet developing the theme? Well, he's using a three-part structure. He's asking the woman to imagine herself in old age. He's encouraging her to reflect on the uniqueness of his love. And 3, he suggests that she will realize sadly how genuine love fled from her. And the central image in this poem is the woman's pilgrim soul. So you see, as a formalist, I'm really focusing on just the poem itself and these the various components that are creating my analysis. Now I'm going to take some notes on style, right? Because remember, for the formalist too, the form reflects content. So the theme is reinforced by several aspects of the poem's style. It's divided into 3 quatrains. So there are those are 4-line stanzas as a quatrain. It's a 4-line stanza, and there are 3 of them, each fulfilling a special function. It uses the rhyme scheme ABBA, CDDC, and EFFE, which is called an envelope rhyme or an Italian quatrain. It personifies love, which is described as fleeing and pacing and hiding. So love becomes an actual sort of person in this, right? It's personification. And here I've created a template for a paragraph on theme. So if I'm going to write a paragraph about the theme of this poem, I might do the following. So the theme of this poem is blank, which is developed in these ways, A, B, and C. Okay? So the paragraph might look something like this. Yeats's When You Are Old is essentially about the sense of loss that the poet feels at having been rejected by a woman and his attempt to make her feel this as her own loss. The theme of loss is developed in 3 parts. First, he asks the woman to imagine herself old and how she will then recall when she was young. Then he points out to her that he was the only one who loved her genuinely, not only in her moments of glad grace, but also when she was undergoing sorrow and hardship. Finally, he asks her to admit that she doesn't have real love in her life, that genuine love fled with him. Okay, so there I've developed a sort of paragraph from my notes about theme. Okay, so now we're going to look at this paragraph on the poem's style. I'm going to transition from theme into style by using this template. The theme is reinforced by the following aspects of the poem's style, and then I'm going to list those. So a number of stylistic elements help develop this theme. To begin, the poem is divided into 3 quatrains, each fulfilling a specific function. Moreover, the poem uses the rhyme scheme ABBA, CDDC, EFFE, which is a kind of envelope rhyme whereby one set of rhymes is enclosed within another. This type of quatrain is called an Italian quatrain, and the progression of the quatrains through different sets of rhymes gives us the sense that the progression of time is irreversible and the loss of love absolute. But the use of different rhymes in each quatrain also isolates each quatrain from the others, enabling the poet to pause, interrupting his own address to the woman with a general observation in the middle quatrain about the uniquely genuine nature of his love. Finally, the most prominent literary technique is personification of love, which reinforces the suggestion that the woman has lost not just this man, but life itself. Okay, so here's your assignment. You're going to read the poem Richard Cory on page 341 of our textbook, and you're going to annotate just like I did. And on your discussion board, you're going to be considering the various questions from page 42, because those are questions that lead you to a formalist reading. Some are more directed at narrative, but find those that are going to help you look at the poem, Richard Cory. Find a point of entry into the poem as a formalist. And I want you to write notes, create a triple entry journal. You can go back to the instructions on that triple entry journal in week 1 if you don't remember what we've talked about in terms of the triple entry journal. But do please create one that you can post. Using the formalist approach, I want you to write 2 consecutive paragraphs, just as I did. If you'd like to write about theme and styles per my example, then certainly do so. You can formulate your paragraphs with this template. The blank of this poem is blank, which is developed in these ways, A, B, and C. So that might be the way that you formulate your first sentence there of your 2 paragraphs. Okay, as always, let me know if you have any questions.